Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. I hope all of you are doing fine. Welcome again to the Set to Ace program, an initiative from Pejabat Pendidikan Daerah Melaka Tengah as an effort to help the students to achieve excellence in their English SPM examination. You are back with me again. I'm Mr. HAFIZ from SMK Baru to look at paper 3, the speaking paper. This session actually is an extension to the previous two sessions delivered by Madam Nandini from SMK Tinggi Perempuan Melaka. In those sessions, Madam Nandini has discussed in details about the structures of the speaking paper. So do check out the YouTube videos of the sessions in this channel. Okay, so this session is the practical speaking session. At first, I was hoping to record the sample interactions of a mock speaking test prepared for this session to provide a more authentic physical setting of the test. Nevertheless, due to the current situation that we are facing, and to observe the standard operating procedure or the SOP, as well as to avoid taking any health risks, the recording has to be done online using Zoom meeting. Okay, so in this session, we will first briefly go through the overview of the speaking paper or paper 3. Next, we will watch sample interaction by participants who volunteered to be involved in these sessions. And at the same time, we will discuss some tips and techniques in answering the paper by analyzing the sample interactions that we will be watching. Okay, just a disclaimer before I continue. This is a scripted practice. The sample interactions and responses by the participants may not reflect their actual ability or performance in speaking. Okay, now let us first look at the overview of the English speaking test. I'm sure by now that all of you are already aware about the arrangement of the speaking test, where two candidates will be tested together in one session. So you will sit together in front of the interlocutor who will be asking you questions, and the assessor will just listen. Okay, the interlocutor will assess your overall spoken performance, while the assessor will look at your grammar, vocabulary, and your language. Now, the SPM instrument format for paper 3, there are 3 parts of the test. In part 1, 4 questions will be asked for each candidate. Part 2, 1 question for each candidate, and part 3, 1 question for both candidates. Okay, the task type for part 1 is an interview, which will take about 3 to 4 minutes. The interlocutor will interview the candidates using the frame provided for the interlocutor. And the candidates are expected to respond to the question by, for example, giving factual information about self or your biodata, or talking about present circumstances, or expressing opinions, or explaining and giving reasons, or talking about past experience. Now, we will look at a sample video for part 1. While watching the sample interaction, I encourage you to think and imagine your own response or answer if you encounter similar questions or tasks in the test. Subsequently, I will comment on the participants' performance in those samples. Now, let's look at the first sample for part 1. Okay, good evening. I'm Mr. Hafiz, and this is my colleague, Miss X. She'll just listen to us. First of all, we'd like to know something about you. What's your name?
Iskandar.
Thank you. And what's your name?
My name is Nurin. I'm 17 years old and I'm studying at SMK Bukit Baiduri.
Okay, thank you. Iskandar, where do you live?
Taman Delima.
Okay, Nurin, how do you come to school?
I come to school by bus.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you about your daily routine. Iskandar, what do you normally do after you wake up?
Take a shower, have breakfast, then go to school.
Okay, Nurin, what do you usually do after coming back from school?
I usually have lunch and after that I do my homework.
Okay, Iskandar, how do you spend your leisure time?
I play games on my mobile phone.
Okay, Nurin, what do you do on weekends?
On weekends, I usually play games on my mobile phone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now let us analyze the sample video that we watched earlier. Okay, so in part one, the first phase for sample one, okay, let's look at the candidate respond to the question asked. Okay, for example, when the interlocutor asks for the candidate's name, and then candidate A just responded with a one-word answer. Okay, Iskandar. Okay, and then the second question, where do you live? Okay, and then again, the candidate answered Taman Delima. Okay, so these are examples of incomplete sentence. Okay, which is something that you should avoid because as the name suggests, speaking test. So speaking test assesses a candidate's ability to use the language or to speak. Now, let's look at another example. Okay, for candidate B, when the interlocutor asks for her name, okay, and then her response was, my name is Nurin, I'm 17 years old, and I'm studying at SMK Bukit Baiduri. Okay, here, okay, perhaps due to anxiety, or perhaps the candidate was too excited to elaborate on her answer, and then the candidate gave information that was not related to the question. Again, okay, this is also something that you need to avoid. Now, let's move on to the phase two of part one. Okay, the candidate was asked, what do you normally do after you wake up? Okay, and then candidate A answered, take a shower, have breakfast, then go to school. Okay, here we can see the candidate is not using a complete sentence to give his response. Okay, so what you can do is actually, if you are faced with same situation, and then whereby you have difficulty to answer the question, you can use the structure from the question to help you. Okay, for example, here we can use I normally, okay, or after I wake up, I normally take a shower, have breakfast, and then go to school. So it is very useful to use the structure given in the question. Okay, next, let's look at the next example. Okay, whereby the candidate was asked about how he spent his leisure time. Okay, so candidate A answered, I play games on my mobile phone. And then similar question was asked to candidate B. Okay, what do you do on weekends? So candidate B answered, on weekends, I usually play games on my mobile phone. Okay, although in reality, this is what she usually does on weekends. Okay, but in this situation, I advise you to not repeat similar points or repeat the same points as your partner because it might give a bad impression on your ability to speak. Okay, so this is also something that you need to avoid. Next, we will look at sample 2 for part 1. Okay, good evening. I'm Mr. HAFIZ, and this is my colleague, Miss X. She'll just listen to us. First of all, we'd like to know something about you. What's your name?
My name is Amirul Aiman Iskandar bin Elmi Rizal. You can call me Iskandar.
Thank you. And what's your name?
My name is Nurin Irdina binti Zahari. You can call me Nurin.
Okay, thank you. Iskandar, where do you live?
I live in Taman Delima, Bukit Baiduri, Melaka.
Okay, Nurin, how do you come to school?
Usually, my father will drive and drop me off at school on his way to work. But sometimes, when he's out of town, I will have to use ride-hailing service such as Grab to get to school.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you about your personal interests. Iskandar, what do you like to do during your free time?
Well, I like to go cycling. Apart from that, I also enjoy hiking.
Why do you choose these hobbies?
I love to be close to nature. When I go cycling in the park or hiking in the forest, I get to enjoy the scenery around me. Besides, it's good to be able to go out for some fresh air after long hours of studying.
Okay, Nurin, what are your hobbies?
I like baking and cooking.
Is your family supportive of your hobbies?
Yes, they do. My parents are very happy to know that I can make my own dishes such as chicken rice and spaghetti bolognese. It means that I don't have to depend on them to cook for me, especially when they are not around.
Okay, thank you, Iskandar and Nurin. Okay, now let's look at the second sample of part 1. Okay, actually this second sample is actually a better version of the interview. Okay, so let's look at how the candidates did for this sample. Okay, if you look here, when the interlocutor asks for the candidates' names, okay, not only the candidates provided their names, but they also stated what they preferred to be called as. Okay, for example, candidate A answered, you can call me Iskandar, and candidate B responded, you can call me Nurin. Okay, for me, as the interlocutor or as the assessor, I would find this very helpful because it would help us to identify the candidates and also address their names properly. Okay, now let's look at the next example. Okay, where the interlocutor asks candidate B, how do you come to school? Okay, we can see here candidate B answered and provided explanation or elaboration to her response. Okay, here we can see she said, usually my father will drive and drop me off at school on his way to work. Okay, but sometime when he's out of town, I will have to use ride-hailing service such as Grab to get to school. Okay, here the elaboration or explanation made is on point and related to the question. Now, for second phase, okay, we can see candidate A and candidate B also provided elaboration to their answers. Okay, for example, when the interlocutor asks candidate A, why do you choose these hobbies? Okay, and then candidate A answered, I love to be close to nature. When I go cycling in the park or hiking in the forest, I get to enjoy scenery around me. Besides, it's good to be able to go out for some fresh air after long hours of studying. Okay, and then when the interlocutor asks candidate B, is your family supportive of your hobbies? Okay, and then candidate B answered, yes, they do. My parents are very happy to know that I can make my own dishes such as chicken rice and spaghetti bolognese. Okay, it means that I don't have to depend on them to cook for me, especially when they are not around. Okay, so here we can see that the elaboration or explanation given by the two candidates are on point and related to the question. Okay, so this is what we encourage the candidate to do by providing example, explanation, and elaboration to the answers given. Now, let us look at the overview of part 2 of the English speaking test. Okay, this part is an individual long-term task which will take about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, in this part, the examiner will ask the candidate to speak for about 1 minute on a particular topic related to the candidate's own experience. Each candidate is also given a short response question on their partner's topic. So in this part, you are expected to be able to sustain a long term and to be able to manage this course. Okay, let's look here. To manage the discourse, you should be able to provide coherence and clarity of message. Number 2, organization of language and ideas. And number 3, accuracy and appropriate of linguistic resource. So normally in this part, the candidate is asked to give information of a non-personal kind, to talk about past, present, or future experience, explain and give reasons, express and justify opinions, describe people, places, and situation. Sometimes the candidate is asked to speculate, name personal characteristics, objects, and activities. The candidate should also be able to paraphrase words and ideas if necessary. Okay, first we will watch a sample video for part 2. In this part of the test, I'm going to give each of you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it on your own for about a minute. You also need to answer a question briefly about your partner's topic. Shaira, it's your turn first. Here's your task. I'd like you to talk about your biggest fear. First, you have some time to think about what you are going to say. Now, let's pause here for a while. Okay, the candidate is given approximately 20 seconds to prepare. Okay, and then for candidate B, we encourage you to be alert all the time and then start thinking about the response that you will provide after your partner finishes. Okay, so candidate B should use this time wisely. He or she should think about experience related to the topic, which is fear. Okay, examples related to the topic, and also vocabulary related to the topic.
What you consider to be your biggest fear is to fear in something I do. Why you feel that way? Because I feel stressed and sad if I fail. What you can do to overcome your fear is to do my best and then leave the rest to God. If you think it is important for people to face their fear, yes. Why because to be successful in life. Thank you.
Okay, so let's look at how candidate A did in example 1. Okay, if you notice something about her response, okay, we can see that the candidate repeated the same sentence as given in the points and then add her own answers. Okay, for example, what do you consider to be your biggest fear? To fail in something I do. Why you feel that way? Because I feel stressed and sad if I fail. What you can do to overcome your fear is to do my best and then leave the rest to God. If you think it is important for people to face their fears, yes. Why? Because to be successful in life. Okay, many at times I come across this kind of response when I did a speaking practice with the candidates. Okay, so this is something that you should avoid. Okay, instead, you should use the structures given in the point and formulate your answers. Okay, so we will look at that in sample number 2.
I consider my biggest fear is failing in something that I do. I feel that way because I really hope to be successful in everything that I do. To overcome my fear, I can always try my best, but at the same time, I must be able to accept the outcome. There are ups and downs in life. So I think we should not to be depressed if we fail to achieve our target sometimes. Instead, I think we should try harder. I think it is important for people to face their fears to avoid living life full of regret.
Okay, so this is what I said earlier about using the structures given in the points. Okay, for example, we can see here, the candidate formulated her answer by using the structures given. Okay, so what you consider to be your biggest fear? Okay, I consider my biggest fear is, okay, and then her answer. Okay, why do you feel that way? Okay, again, using the structure from the point. I feel that way because, okay, and then she gave her answer. Okay, what you can do to overcome your fear? Okay, to overcome my fear, I can, okay, and then the answer. Okay, here the candidate also provided some elaboration on the answer. And the last point, if you think it is important for people to face their fears, okay, so again, using the structure, I think it is important for people to face their fears, okay, and then the answer.
My biggest fear is failure. I have been raised to always strive for excellence. My parents have always taught me to give my best and be the best in everything I do. Therefore, I have this fear of failing and not meeting the expectation of my parents and myself as well. To overcome my fear, I think sometimes I need to lower my expectations and be happy with all my achievements. As my favorite TV host, Oprah, once said, failure is another stepping stone to greatness. I need to be happy with myself and understand that success will indeed come to those who work hard. I believe that we always pass failure in our way to success. Therefore, I should be contented with life and strive to be the best version of myself. I also believe it is important for us to face our fear in order to live life with no regrets. Thank you.
Okay, in sample 3 of part 1 for candidate A, we can see that this is a way better sample compared to sample 1 and sample 2. Okay, so the candidate provided a lot of elaboration as well as examples to her points. Okay, so you can refer to the script if you want to have a look later. Okay, thank you, Shaira. Putri, what do you consider to be your biggest fear? Why?
I know this might sound cliche, but I always petrified of the dark. I hate to sleep in the total darkness, so I must have at least a small lamp, small table lamp on the whole night. I do not like to walk on the very dark roads at night for fear of the unknown. I also dislike blackouts at night due to power cuts, and therefore I always prepare a torchlight with me all the time. I do not like being in the dark because it always makes me feel really uneasy not being able to see what's around me.
Okay, let's look at the response by candidate B. Okay, so candidate B said, I know this might sound cliche. Okay, so this is a less common lexis that you are encouraged to use in your speaking test. Okay, and then the next word, the next vocabulary. Okay, petrified. Okay, which is a synonym of fear. Okay, so if you remember what I said earlier, when candidate A was given the task, or when candidate A is given the task, candidate B should use the time to think about the same topic. Think about the vocabulary that could be used when giving the response. Okay, so after that, also think about your experience about the topic, as well as some examples related to the experience. Okay, now let's continue by looking at the response given by candidate B. So the question for candidate B, okay, candidate B, here's your task. I'd like you to talk about your future plans. First, you have some time to think about what you are going to say. Okay, and then after candidate B finish giving her response, okay, the interlocutor will ask candidate a question based on the similar topic. What do you want to do after SPM? Do you have a goal that you want to achieve? What is it? Okay, now let's look at how candidate A responded to the question.
I plan to do two things after SPM. Firstly, I want to hone my skills in photography. I think I can get a lot of money by taking good quality of pictures for other people. I want to follow in my uncle's footsteps and be a professional photographer, taking pictures for companies and individuals. He also travels to many interesting places to get the pictures taken. I would love to specialize in nature shots, especially wildlife and plants. I realized that in order to be a good photographer, I will need to have a perseverance and be motivated. I will also need to meet a lot of photographers besides attending talks and exhibitions to gain more knowledge and experience. Secondly, I want to learn how to cook for my mother. My mother is a great cook and she can offer me many useful cooking tips. I may not be able to stay with my parents when I further studies, so it would be nice if I can cook for myself. I can also save a lot of money this way. I think I'm going to ask my mother to teach me how to cook one type of dish every day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Putri. Shaira, what do you plan to do after SPM? Do you have a goal that you want to achieve? What is it?
I would like to travel after the SPM. I would like to immerse myself in the experience of exploring the sight and sound of some local destination in Malaysia. By that time, I will be able to travel without any care or worry about examination or unfinished assignment or homework. My goal after the SPM is to relax my mind, find happiness, as well as learn about a new culture and customs.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we have reached the last part of the speaking test, which is part 3. Okay, in this part of the test, you will be given a discussion task whereby the candidates are asked to speak on a topic for about 2 minutes with a central focus question and surrounding ideas to help them. Okay, next, they are then given a decision question to focus on and discuss for 1 minute. And lastly, candidates are given 1 further minute to answer the final joint question. Okay, candidates are expected to be able to showcase the ability to do turn-taking and responding appropriately, negotiating, initiating, as well as developing topics. Okay, in order to do so, you might have to explain and give reasons, exchange information and opinions, express and justify opinions, negotiate and justify opinions, negotiate agreements, making and responding to suggestions, and discuss alternative. Now, let's look at the question used for this sample video. Okay, now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. The task will have 2 parts. In the first part, you will discuss something with each other for about 2 minutes. Then in the second part, you will have another minute to make a decision together. All right, let's begin with the discussion task. Many people aspire to be a good leader. Here are some qualities of a good leader and a question for you to discuss. First, you have some time to look at the task. Now, I will pause there for a second. Okay, when you are given the time to prepare for the task, I suggest you use this time wisely to distribute the points among yourself. Okay, besides that, you can use this time to ask a partner if you don't understand something or some points from the task. Okay, now let us watch how the 2 candidates responded for this sample.
It is not easy being a leader of a group. You need to have certain qualities in order to become a good leader. A good leader, first and foremost, must be kind to his group members. He should listen to feedbacks and complaints coming from them and kindly offer a well-thought-out solutions.
Yes, you're right, Minfai. A good leader should praise group members that are doing good jobs and understand the predicament of some group members. To be honest, I think a leader must be fair too. A fair leader does not discriminate the group member based on their race, gender, or social background. They should treat every member fairly and not based on prejudice or favoritism.
Besides being kind and fair, a good leader should also have a high standard of discipline. He should be able to differentiate between work and play so his group could finish any given work on time. What do you think, Hemaf?
Agree more. In addition, I believe that it is very important for a leader to be responsible. A good leader should be able to think and act rationally rather than emotionally. Apart from that, a good leader must be willing to cooperate with other people. Lack of cooperation between a leader and group members can lead to a disagreement and thus producing a dysfunctional and ineffective group.
That's a good point, Hemaf. I also think that a leader should be willing to cooperate with his or her group members, and in order to pull together ideas and ensure the success of a particular group project or assignment.
Yes, that is true. But last but not least, a good leader is always willing to accept different views from his group members and other people. He should always be open to suggestion and ideas.
Yes, I certainly agree with that.
Now, you have about a minute to decide together the most important quality of a good leader.
Okay, so there are 6 qualities of a good leader in this list. Out of these 6 qualities, I think willing to cooperate is the most important. When you become a leader, you need to work with a lot of people. Sometimes you may find that you have to work with strangers or someone you don't really like. However, if you are able to put your differences aside and focus on completing the task, then you can cooperate with them.
Well, not too sure about that, Mingfai. In my opinion, being responsible is the most important quality of a good leader.
Why do you say that, Hemaf?
First of all, as a leader, you have to know what needs to be done in order to complete the task. You also need to divide the task among your group members. If you avoid doing that, then there will be trouble. The group members will not know what they are supposed to do because they do not receive proper instructions from you. A good leader will not avoid doing his share of work because he knows that it is his duty to help his group members.
I think you're right, Hemaf. I don't think anyone can get his job done when he is irresponsible in the first place. If you are a responsible person, you will put your heart and soul into any given task.
Okay, so based on our discussion, we agree that being responsible is the most important quality of a leader. Is that right, Mingfai?
Yes, that's right, Hemaf.
You have been talking about the qualities of a good leader. Now, let's hear your opinion on this. Why good leadership is important?
So let's talk about the importance of good leadership. A good leader is open to learning new things. This means that by having good leadership, his group members can develop new ways of thinking so that they can avoid repeating past mistakes. Do you agree, Hemaf?
I totally agree with you, Mingfai. Not only that, when a leader has good leadership skills, he will also be able to keep his group members motivated to complete a task. Plus, he will bring out the best in people. What do you think, Mingfai?
That's a good point, Hemaf. I also think having good leadership skills allows a leader to create a positive environment where everyone can feel comfortable sharing ideas with him.
That is absolutely true, Mingfai. Besides that, you can be a good role model to your group members if you are a good leader. You can show them the correct way of doing something and instill pride for the work they are doing.
Okay, I think we're finished, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you, Mingfai and Hammond. That's the end of the speaking test. Now, we have watched the sample video for part 3. Okay, I would like to highlight certain good points made by the two participants. Okay, first of all, let's look at the beginning of the discussion. Okay, where candidate A managed to initiate the discussion. Okay, by saying it's not easy being a leader of a group. Okay, you need to have certain qualities in order to become a good leader. Okay, and then he proceeded with his point. Okay, and then we can see the turn taking done by the two candidates. Okay, yes, you are right, Mingfai. Okay, and then the candidate B gave his point. Okay, and then elaborate on it. Okay, apart from that, okay, we can see that they also exchange ideas and ask for clarification. For example, here, what do you think, Heman? Okay, and then other than that, okay, we can see again, okay, that's a good point. Okay, yes, that is true. Okay, yes, I certainly agree with that. Okay, and then in the next part where they have to decide about the most important quality of a good leader, sorry. Okay, so candidate A chose willing to cooperate, okay, and then explain why he chose that point. Okay, however, we can see that candidate B disagree with his point. Okay, yes, you can disagree with your partner, okay, but make sure that you do it politely. Okay, and then candidate A asked for clarification, okay, on why candidate B disagree. Okay, and then candidate B explained his own point. Okay, and finally, they managed to come to a decision together. Okay, after that, okay, there is one more further discussion question about why good leadership is important. Okay, so usually this part of the test will analyze, or will assess your ability to use high order thinking skill. So again, sorry. Okay, again, you can do this in the form of discussion. All right. Okay, I will share this with you, perhaps in the description of the YouTube session. Okay, so you can download from there. Okay, and then I would like to thank the English panel of SMKP Baru, as well as the panel of the Set to Ace program, and especially to the participants from SMKP Baru, Nur Aiman Iskandar, Nuri Inidina, Nur Syaira, Putri Nawadiha, Kokmin Fai, and okay, thank you very much for volunteering, and also everyone who attends and makes this workshop a success. Okay, thank you. See you again next time. Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.